They're all posers, all of them.
Like, well, you can't teach that healthily. It's not possible to teach that.
No!
Hi, my name is Melissa and I'm a professional soul singer. Today I'll be interviewing legend Melissa Cross about metal vocals. Melissa Cross, thank you so much for your time, first of all, for being here, because I'm sure that you've got lots of things, both important and not important, to be getting on with. So I appreciate you coming and having a wee chat with me. So I've been stalking you online for a few days, just watching lots of videos about you and being both astonished and wanting to know how your witchcraft works, because it's clearly witchcraft. That's what I've decided. um, you mentioned in one of your videos that your starting was in Shakespearean acting and operatic classical background is where you sort of started. What did that look like? Because it's such a world away from, teaching metal vocals to people.
It is, but if you're 12 years old and you tell your parents that you want to be a the best singer in the world, or you don't want to live anymore, then they say, okay, well then we have to teach you properly.
Ah,
So that is how. But I kind of vacillated towards that because there was nothing else back then. It's no secret that I am effing ancient. Okay, I'm ancient.
I reject this statement. You're classic. That's it.
I'm a classic, right? I'm classic. Right. So in my classicness, at the time that I was wanting to be the best singer in the world, the only kind of pedagogy that was out there was classical. There was no such thing as a rock voice teacher. And as a child, I didn't know the difference between the sounds. Now I know exactly what the difference is. But it wasn't until way later that I figured out why classical sounds different than music on the radio. And now I know exactly why, because I've been in voice science since 1985 because I got injured. And so I wasn't allowed to on vocal rest forever. So I hit the books and I started with voice science. And I was so blown away by how interesting and how close to life itself the world of sound is and the world of
Sure.
human sound that I just went on a deep dive and I got all these screamers with me now because it was applicable to what they were doing. It's an interesting kind of way that the stars align with, like, it goes like
Yeah.
this. But way back when I was 13, my hero was Janis Joplin.
Oh,
So I
oh, Janis
wanted to
Joplin.
be her.
Yeah.
And I actually carried that with me for forever. I still have that ethic with me. It's like I'm going down with Janis, going down with Janis. But I didn't understand how to make that sound without hurting myself. So I did hurt myself, and the healing is what sort of gave me the keys to the kingdom because I stopped singing and started learning, and then I started understanding, and then I developed the technique based on that healing process.
Right. Aha,
So
right, okay. Because one of the things I came up against when I first started professional vocals was I used what I would call squall. Absolutely the exact same thing as a lot of metal vocalists do that I didn't realise. And
yeah,
I used it quite in a very healthy way. And a lot of people would give me the whole, oh, well, if you sing like that, you won't be singing for very long. And that was
bullshit.
about 17 years ago.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Okay, it's interesting because squall is a word that is used. I mean, that's a voice word. It involves frequencies, right? In
Mhm.
other words, when you're in a metal band, it's not about volume. And this is how people get hurt. They compete with the volume, but really, human hearing is more sensitive at a certain hertz level, 5 to 8,000 hertz,
Sure.
8K, right? And in order to get that, you have to do certain things. Otherwise, the band will bury you.
Yeah.
So the only thing that competes with the noise on stage from the band is the cymbals and a high frequency in the scream.
Right.
If I had this "Gah!" that, right, then you
Mhm.
could that was easy, by the way. I had absolutely no effort doing that. So that
Crazy.
is key. That is what I figured out. That it's not about effort. but the pitfall is to use emotion to create the sound.
Right, because I watched a video with a vocalist called Jens Kidman. I'm sure you've probably heard of him from Meshuggah. Um,
Oh yeah.
and he's up at the microphone, and he very much in a lot of the songs that I've heard so far, which is not a lot. I don't know much about metal music. I'm just sort of finding my way through it. It feels like the volume is so loud to me, and it might well not be, or it could be, but it feels so destructive to me or unintuitive to me when I listen to it like that. When I see Jens Kidman at the microphone in the studio just going, wow, it feels, I don't know, it feels so destructive. So hearing you talk about it and seeing you do it very quietly, just sitting in your house with the
Yep.
witchcraft that you own, I'm like, ah, I don't, I'm so excited to learn, but at the same time, there's still that little disconnect, which is weird because, you know, squall feels very natural to me because I went down a rabbit hole reading about people talking and teaching metal vocals. And there were some people saying things like, well, you can't teach that healthily. It's not possible to teach that. And then again, I referred back to like people who told me I was going to have a voice if I continued with squall. And I was like, that can't be. It can't be. There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way through.
Yeah. So the way through anything is more knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah,
more you know about something, you're less likely you are to like fall into the
sure.
so. And there's oh my god, the bullshit online is so bad. It's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that wants to can like get online and say, well, the false chord and the fry scream and the right, and I made up those words. Those are words, right? And
You
they're
heard it here
telling me
first.
I was there first. But no, it's not, I don't care about that. What I
Yeah,
care about is that they definitively announce absolute bull. Like the
sure.
other day, this woman said, the false folds vibrate twice as slowly or twice as fast as the true chords, and that's what makes false chord. That is absolute crap.
Mm.
Absolute crap. But a million views, that's the only credibility is needed to
Yeah,
pass the bullshit. I don't think I'm special because I learned all this stuff. I just want to point out that I did the work.
yeah, yeah. I'll bet you did.
So here we go. Here we go. All right. So this is how people get injured with squall. I'm going to separate two categories of the noisy voice.
Mhm.
Noisy is anything that doesn't have a pitch.
Okay.
So if I go, "Eep," the fact that there's a pitch there, that means that there is a repetitive cycle per second that
Hmm.
is creating what is defined as a pitch or a
Hmm.
musical note.
Yeah,
If I go, "Ah," there is no musical note in there. It's
yeah.
just noise. So that's how we define the difference between noise and a note. Okay. So now let's take the noise thing and put it
Uh-huh.
in two categories. How to make noise.
Hmm.
Wall, false chord screaming is made by lifting the larynx so that it collides with the epiglottis. So this is located higher up. The vocal folds are down here and the epiglottis is a little bit higher. So
Hmm.
when I go, right, that noise
Sure.
is the sound of the tissues lower than the epiglottis colliding with the epiglottis. And
Right.
it sounds like throwing up, like yes.
Okay.
Okay. That's category number one. Category number two is something that I do not believe anybody teaches effectively. I've never
Okay.
seen anybody teach it effectively. But let's talk about the second category.
Hmm.
Without that lift, like when you squall, right, there
Hmm.
is a constriction. You feel the
Yeah.
constriction, right?
Hmm.
Right. There's a little bit of a, right? That is
Absolutely.
called constriction. And constriction in classical music is really bad,
Yeah.
but it's absolutely necessary for music on the radio,
Yeah.
right? You have to have that because humans make that sound.
Yeah.
Like the sound of humanity is the sound of the radio. The sound of the opera and traditional musical theater is a little bit more elitist in
Yeah.
terms of the appreciation of it, etc. Right? But music on the radio is just like telling stories, and humans tell stories that have human noises in it. You
Hmm.
would never hear ah in an opera.
No.
You would never
Oh
hear
no, you would not.
you never hear that because
Mhm.
it's like not beautiful. Like classical music is pretty.
Yeah.
The aesthetic is supposed to be pleasing, nice. Music on the radio is not about pretty. It's
Yeah.
about real, it's about authentic, and it's about compelling.
Mhm.
Something compelling. All right, so we have two categories. We have the lift of the larynx, and then we
Mhm.
have no lift of the larynx, which is what I call fry screaming.
Okay.
So, fry screaming is more creaky. In other
Creaky.
words, if I do something like I go, now, do this,
Now.
now,
Now.
that's okay. So, you did not lift anything to do that,
No.
right? You went, now, no,
Now.
yes. Okay,
Now.
now that's fry
Okay.
screaming. Now, fry by itself in the voice world is not that. I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you the difference. If I go, "Ah, ah," that is vocal fry in the voice science world. The vocal folds are not doing a cycle per second.
Mhm.
What they're doing is like going, they're like farting. They're going,
Vocal farts. I can do that.
vocal fart. That's what it is,
I
vocal
was
fart.
born for this.
You know what? Me too. I knew there was a reason I had all that going on. Okay.
Yeah.
Vocal
Vocal
farting.
farts.
Okay, so when I go, there is no effort and there's hardly any air going through.
Mhm.
It's just the least amount of, and what's happening with vocal fry in the science, voice science world, is that there is no oscillation. In other words, there's not enough air pressure in the lungs to create the phenomena of the vocal folds beginning to oscillate
Mhm.
cycles per second, that
Yeah.
440. So right before they start to oscillate, they come together,
Mhm.
right? And then there's another ligament that actually, when you speak, when you get really high, when you speak, it stretches. And when you go down here, it goes like this. And then it goes, in other words, singing, speaking, if the voice goes up in pitch, it's being stretched by a ligament. But it's
Mhm.
not the same mechanic that brings the folds together.
Yeah.
That's called the TA, right?
Right.
So the TA brings them together, but the cricothyroid ligament starts this stretching thing.
Mhm.
And so the cycle per second can go faster only if the stretching is enough.
Right.
So, in other words, if you think of a low guitar string,
Mhm.
they're thicker,
Yeah.
right? The top string, the first string on the guitar is thinner. Well,
Mhm.
that's exactly how the vocal folds work. The higher the pitch, the thinner the vocal fold becomes by that stretching.
Mhm.
So when the cricothyroid stretches the vocal folds, it displaces some of the muscle mass. Because when
Right.
you stretch it, the substance of it thins out, it
Mhm.
stretches out. And that makes that faster oscillating or farting. That's what makes a high note or a higher farting noise. So if I go, that doesn't sound the same as, "Rah,"
That's so cool. It's so
but it's this.
cool.
But you know what? I'm going to give you the easy way. Can you just be pterodactyl? Just go, "Rah!"
Rah! Rah! Don't know.
Okay, here's the one thing. You cannot listen to it. If you
I
listen
can't
to
listen
it,
to it.
no, because what happens is as you listen to what you are producing out of your mouth, go to this part of the brain that goes, and that stops the breath. As soon as
Right.
you go to, oh, what does that sound like? Wait, you don't have the airflow. So
Okay.
it's like really tricky. It's really
So
hard.
tricky.
It's
S-
very tricky.
Yeah.
I have to cheat you into it, right?
Okay.
So it's probably easiest to come up with little characters like
Sure.
Marge, like go, oh, Bart, oh, Bart.
You don't know, you've opened the Pandora's box of nonsense now, Melissa, because I love The Simpsons so much.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so Marge Simpson, right? Yeah,
Right.
I've used Marge Simpson like, oh my God, oh my God, Homer, Homer, Homer. over. I'm not going, I'm not
No, it's
lifting
not
anything.
yeah.
Lifting. I'm just going, no, no.
No. No. No.
Good job.
It's
Excellent.
quite a
Okay.
different, yeah.
Now, there's no
No.
effort in that. That is not, okay, there's no effort, right? You just went,
Yeah.
no. So it's super quiet.
Yeah.
But the microphone makes it really loud.
Yeah.
The microphone takes all of those strange high frequencies and makes a meal out of everything. So everything is like broadcast as equal. The
Yeah.
highs, the lows. So that's why glides are yee. That's like
Mm-hmm.
how you train that ligament. You go yee. Do that.
Eee.
Now, can you put it some more like,
Eee.
yes, you see how easy that is?
Yeah.
Right?
Eee.
Exactly. See, that was really easy because there was enough flexibility or elasticity in the
Sure.
vocal cord, and there was more room in the vocal tract
Right.
to resonate the higher frequencies. You don't need the volume, you just need the shape.
Yeah, because
right?
that was something that always worried me whenever I would look and listen to any of these metal vocalists. I would think, well, I don't yet understand the mechanics of being able to produce that sound, but the volume put me off more than anything else. The idea of having to create this huge noise with that amount of distortion, I thought, oh, that frightens the shit out of me. I'm never going to be able to do that.
It's all smoke and mirrors.
Smoke and mirrors. Metal singers are all liars. That's what you're saying. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
They're all posers. All of that.
They're posers.
The ones that are surviving are posers.
I love that so much. That's so fierce. Do you know the other thing as well is I was watching some of the stuff you teaching people and talking to them on like tour buses, and some of them, to be honest, their vocals were at breaking point and things like that. And I thought to myself, you mentioned about emotion, and that's how we create the almost like the presence, I guess. Where volume would normally take the seat, we want presence to take the seat instead. We're dealing with really abstract like things when you're talking about metal vocals. It's so abstract. It's like epiglottis. What the does an epiglottis look like? And that kind of thing. How do you make that connection when you're doing any kind of metal vocals? How do you think about all of these technical things, but also still find a space for the emotion of it?
Practice. It's called practice.
Sure. Full stop. Full stop.
But you have to become familiar with the way it is, not the way you think it is. Like, for instance, that high is up there and low is up there.
Yeah.
What makes a higher scream is a different vowel shape,
Aha.
not a different. It's in other words, this is what people think. People think that your voice comes from your vocal folds. It does not.
No.
Any more than when you listen to an acoustic guitar, you are not hearing the sound of the pick on the string. What you hear is the resonance of the pick on the string that's coming out of the guitar. Right? I'm not talking about electric guitar. I'm just talking about an acoustic instrument.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't hear click, 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 click.
No.
I hear chord, chord, chord. That's exactly how the voice works. The voice is not coming from your vocal folds. It's coming from a combination of many things, most of which is a vowel shape along with a source of the vocal folds. So the vocal folds by themselves, they make this noise. That's the sound of vocal fry. That's the sound that the voice makes without the resonance.
Yeah.
But if I put that, I'm going to actually make that a lot faster by going, because that's the same idea but faster.
Sure.
So if I go, if I change that to O instead of I went, you see, it sounded like a low scream and a high scream.
That's insanity. She's possessed. I'm phoning a priest right now, Melissa.
The power of Christ compels you.
Something is
I've
amiss
seen them.
here.
There's no hope. There's no hope.
There's no hope.
I talked to them. They said, just get out.
They said, your money's no good here, Melissa Cross, leave. Yeah, it's such an amazing noise. And I when you're talking about vowels, that was something that I noticed because, of course, a lot of the things on my YouTube is going and discovering all of these new singers that I've never heard before. And I noticed as I was going along that, because of course, when I'm singing soul music when I'm in my band and I'm doing my own thing. And I am thinking about vowels a lot of the time, especially if I'm going higher. I also hate that term. But if I'm going to, I like to say wider. If I'm going to a wider place,
Wider. Yeah.
I'll
Go rounder.
yeah. I like rounder as well. Actually, I do.
Yeah.
But I'll change. I'll go longer. Yeah. I'll go a little bit longer in my arse. I don't need help doing that, to be honest. I eat a lot of cake. But seeing these metal vocalists doing these things where some of them go really, really small and those kind of, that was quite good actually. And then the big wide, like I guess I want to say more trebly.
Yes, because that's
frequencies.
okay. Good point.
Yeah.
There's a little voice science for you. There's
Absolutely.
2 resonating chambers: the
Right.
rear and the front. The posterior, which is the rear, and the anterior, which is the front.
Okay.
It's like a speaker system. You have like your woofers and you have your tweeters, right?
Ah.
So to oversimplify this, and this is very oversimplified, but the front, if you notice people that have like big teeth and a big grid of like that, like Whitney Houston, Freddie Mercury, you see this like giant like mouth,
Yeah.
like the Cheshire Cat in
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland, like big. That is a singer's mouth.
Right.
Because those frequencies are already presented, anatomically.
Sure.
So there's 2 sounds. There's the brighter side is on the front, and the darker side is kind of the bassier side. Now that's oversimplified, way oversimplified.
Sure.
But that's a way to think of it: is that if you have your mouth closed, it's not going to sound good.
Yeah.
All sounds are good.
Okay.
Some of them are problematic for touring.
Sure. Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, because touring is a big thing now.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I did I've chatted about on the channel a couple of times because, at various points of my career I've absolutely been gigging like 8 times a week in a noisy bar or wherever, and that was enough of a struggle for me to get through in a healthy way over an extended period of time. And I'm singing soul music. The idea of doing that when you're singing something as sort of technically I don't want to use any kind of negative word towards it because it's not. A more sort of chewy feeling in your vocals over a long period of time, I imagine, would be a trickier one to keep fresh and healthy and,
Thing is that if you come to my class,
Yeah.
you'll understand that efforting is not necessary ever in any kind of genre. But the combination of being present emotionally is what people tend to do to make the performance better. In other words, they effort to make it more intense, but that's what you don't want to do. You have to like kind of like re-educate yourself to be like a completely like malleable piece of media that can just like do a vowel without ever going because the voice doesn't like speed bumps. It doesn't like don't you ever do that. I always do this. Like the voice hates that. The voice wants to go A B C D E F G A B C D E F G A B C D E F G and flow 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 flow. It likes to have what's called flow phonation. And so in order to be emotionally present, we want to make it real. So we go like we add all the auxiliary muscles of the emotion, and that's how you get hurt.
Yeah, I like to think that people, especially metal vocalists, are doing technical things, will have you on the ground floor from the get-go, but you do get a lot of calls from people who are at breaking point on tours. What can you possibly do when someone's at that stage where they're exhausted, they've maybe been drinking and doing drugs for a little while, What do
Yeah.
you do when they are at that breaking point? What can you do to save them and pull them back from the edge of like vocal damage and all that kind of stuff?
Silence.
Oh, yeah,
That's the only thing.
it's
You
the
see,
only thing.
you can take a steroid medication and
Sure.
that reduces the swelling, because the reason that it gets like that is because the vocal folds become so swollen that they
Mhm.
don't fit together anymore. So they're too puffy. Go into your light mechanism and go, wee. If it sounds like, hey, hey, then you're swollen. And the only thing you can do is to shut up.
Shut the f up.
Shut the f up. If you did it for 24 hours,
Yeah.
very difficult to do.
Mm.
Very difficult. But everybody that has taken my advice, there hasn't been one exception that after 24 hours of vocal rest, they go, that's a effing miracle. Like a sprained ankle. If you keep walking on it, it never gets well.
No.
First of all, if you drink water, it doesn't pass your vocal folds ever, or you would choke to death. So
Yeah.
people are drinking like these giant gallons of water, just burping their way through a show because they think that it's helpful, but it's not.
No, no. I think that's the only good piece of advice I've ever been given. And I'm not gonna lie to you, Melissa. You are not included in this next statement. But I've met a lot of vocal tutors that I literally want to wring the neck off because they're just the most unhelpful people I've ever met. But the one piece of advice I did take away was silence is good, and drinking water and being hydrated is also good, but not at the time. That doesn't make any difference. You want to be
No.
hydrated, but
You got to
drinking
be
it is,
hydrated already.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're drinking water at the gig. It doesn't matter.
30 minutes before the show ain't working. And during
4
the
hours
show,
before.
it's making you burp.
Yeah. We've been talking a lot of burping, a lot of farting. What's going on? We've went off the rails.
I think we're on from the same planet. We just don't want anyone to know.
Don't tell anyone, Melissa. If you don't tell anyone, I won't tell anyone.
I won't tell a soul.
So see when you're just like chilling in the house, like is metal vocals, is there a particular metal band or anything that you enjoy listening to and singing along with, their techniques?
I love all good music. I love all good music. Like anything that like lifts me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what genre it is. I have this one artist that I've been working with, and this is a huge challenge, this client, because this client has completely wrecked his vocal folds, wrecked them, and continues to have the heart and the dedication to get up there and do it. However, the songs that are being toured with are songs that were popular many years ago, when the voice was not trashed, and when the artist was much younger. Okay, so it's 15 years later, and all these keys are super high. But at the time that he was doing it, he wasn't thinking keys. It was it's like Corey Taylor of Slipknot. It's a presence, right? And it's for us little nerds to go, oh, that frequency is 8,000 K. Like that's not that's not the way it was invented.
Yeah.
It was invented as a human like presence of emotion. I like challenges. And so what I'm hearing from all the haters and all, the YouTube haters after every show, right? They say, all I'm seeing is like, man, his voice has really gotten better.
Yeah.
His voice sounds so amazing now. Like, even though it's damaged, it still sounds amazing because there's no efforting to it. You will find that there's a lot less elasticity in your voice after, the change.
I'm gonna walk out to the sea with like rocks in my pockets before that happens. I can't be arsed. Just if I lose the only thing that I'm good at, which is vocals, that's me. I'm done. Rocks in the pocket. Sorry, continue.
You'll make do with what you got.
Yeah.
So, but you could still be present and tell the story.
Yeah.
And use the same framework. It's just that my higher frequencies, it's not A, it's E. You hear that E?
Yeah.
Whoa, E. I'm not going, whoa, E. You can hear the high and the low at the same time. You know that British, that sort of horsey voice?
Oh, yes, I do declare.
I'm going, oh, it sounds like a low voice, but it's quite high.
That makes sense. That makes total sense.
And what that is that you lift the soft palate,
Sure.
which is exactly what you do in classical music. I'm not going, ee! That's not lifting the soft palate. That's keeping it down so it sounds, it's not wrong though. It sounds like rock and roll to me.
Sometimes you sound like Cyndi Lauper to me, and it makes me incredibly happy.
I know.
I'm
They
sorry if
they just wanna. Right? Oh yeah. I'm up here above the pencil. So I use all these kind of like sensory cues as opposed to intellectual cues. Because once you start trying to operate from that, empirical textbook way, it makes no sense.
And that's the difference with singing.
Yes. My whole technique is about stop listening to the sound of your voice and be the vowel. Be the vowel. Not make the vowel, be the vowel. I'm an ah, so I am like, I'm holding up a teepee that's going, ah. Like, I am ah. I'm not listening through the monitor to see if it sounds like Adele or sounds like blah, blah, blah. Because if I'm doing that, then I'm limiting all the possibilities that could come out truthfully.
Be the vowel. I'm going to get a t-shirt for myself printed with that on it. Be the vowel. I think that's my favourite thing that's ever been said to me. Be the vowel, Melissa. And that it comes from a place, I think, as well. You mentioned it earlier about some of the classical training. Like, I grew up in a very working class, very poor family. And, vocal tuition was absolutely out of the question. And by the time I could afford, there was only classical tutors in my country. In Scotland, there was only classical or trad. And it did feel very elitist and very exclusionist because it's like, well, if you don't understand this selection of text that you can only buy in a very expensive bookstore, well, then that's you. You can't possibly do it then. I'm like, oh, go off. Like,
yeah, fuck is right.
That's not how vocals work. Yeah.
No. And that's not what you hear on the radio either.
No. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to quote you from now on and be like, well, Melissa Cross told me that I am to be the vowel, and you can't read that in a book, so go yourself.
I'll stand by that.
Yes. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for your time today. I'm absolutely going to go and find out about your courses, because you've got courses on your website where everyone can sign up.
MelissaCross.com. They're always, Sundays, usually around 3:00, sometimes Saturdays if it's a 2-day class, but on the weekends, that's when it'll be around 8:00 your time.
I'll link in the description for Melissa Cross's website. If you want to check it out, please go and look it up. You can go and get lessons. You can just even go onto YouTube. Melissa has a YouTube channel as well, and you can go and hear her talking about vocals and see some of the people that she's taught, which is fascinating. Go and check it out or burn in hell. That's all I have to say to that. Yeah, that's real promo right there. So thank you very much, Melissa.
Thanks, Melissa.